tish splat. Stop, let this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. Get your lick back. If a nigga owe you something, ain't no chit chat. Better stay up out the way, don't get your dish splat. Stop, let this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. I feel like I'm JX.
J-Way.
I'm a perfectionist. Adderall got me restless.
I'm gone.
Run with a wild crew, they get reckless. Young boy, come up off that neck.
Give me
Into
that.
the trends. See a lead, be the band.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Corner to Copa. This is a Memorial Day edition of the show. I got my co-host Coach in the building. How you doing, man?
You know, it's a little bit nicer after our experience Thursday evening, but you know, hey, we had to wear friggin' jackets in late May in Michigan. This place is just, it never ceases to surprise us weather-wise. But, you know, in unchanged news, the Tigers are still hot.
Absolutely. So the Tigers are now 34-20. They are 4 games up on the Cleveland Guardians. They start off the week winning 2 of 1. They got blown out in the first game and were able to take the last 2 in Busch Stadium. And then, as Coach talked about, we went to the first game. It was the first game, right?
Yeah, Thursday night. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got a nice little preview of what was to come in the series. It was gloomy and rainy, and that's kind of how the series worked for the most part. We were able to salvage the series and take the last game thanks to Tarek Skubal, who put on yet another masterful performance, a complete game performance with 2 hits and 13 strikeouts, and we escaped that series, you know, without getting completely swept. But what were your takeaways from the series? What did you see within that series?
You know, the Guardian series was, I think the correct word is humbling. Our bats, especially Thursday night, I mean, looked really lifeless. We were blaming on the conditions, whatever you want. We went through what we thought would have been 2 different potential rain delays just because it was coming down hard enough. They were having to constantly get new baseballs out there. And I'm thinking to myself, God, just postpone it right now. You know, let's go into delay. But, you know, they struggled. They faced some pitching that I think was a little surprising. But, you know, outside of that, they were obviously able to avoid the 4-game sweep. And, you know, I hate to say it, but I also did say Thursday night, I'm like, I could see us dropping this series big time. It was really only about 3 innings into the game. It was only 2-0 Cleveland at that time. It was still early, but it just had that feeling in the pit of my stomach, like, okay, this team hasn't really struggled offensively for more than 2 straight days, really, in a series. So, and that kind of came around in the first 3 games of this series, obviously with, you know, their own Tiger killers that just, you know, basically beat us on their own in most of those games because we couldn't do much of anything. But I think it's a combination too. You know, we'll talk more about it later too. We had some newer faces back onto the team that haven't seen the field yet this year. So you got guys getting reacclimated, guys playing some other positions that they haven't played maybe in a while yet, or playing it more often now with that adjustment of personnel. And I think kind of the coolest part, we talked briefly about it too, you know, Thomas Eno pitching 1 2/3 inning in that first game against St. Louis and only needing 9 pitches to record 5 outs in a major league outing, which is kind of, you know, mind-boggling in its own. Usually you need 9 pitches just for an immaculate inning, and he got through almost 2 innings with that. But, you know, I digress on that point. But, you know, the St. Louis series was gutsy. They clawed out some wins. They gave away a lead in that second game after dropping the first one, like you said. And then they came back and absolutely kept him down in the rubber match. So they're adjusting. You know, you can't, not always going to be able to, you know, bank on Skubal to be the guy that gets you out of trouble per se. Certainly he can do that, but in the grand scheme of things for this year, he's got to be the one going out there going for win number 2 of 3 or for the sweep for this series, ideally. So let's go ahead and look forward.
Yeah. So I honestly, there's a couple different things that I see in this situation. Obviously, like you said, there's a lot of Tiger killers on the Guardians. The last thing we needed was Carlos Santana to go back there to join the party. Guys like Quan and J Ram. He's one of the better hitters in all of baseball, so he's always going to get the job done. But they just find the Guardians is just one of those teams that find a way to win. I think there was a statistic, I can't find it, but there's some level of metrics to determine who's receiving the most luck, and part of that is due to when you have a launch angle, exit velocity, there's a certain expectation of whether they're going to be out, and they just find a way to just bloop hits in there. Sometimes it's not always the big bomb always, but at the end, when it's all said and done, the Guardians are the team to beat. Until further notice. They won the division last year. They beat us in the playoffs last year. So it's something to definitely keep an eye on. It just felt after a while. It's funny because I was having a conversation with one of my coworkers, and this was after game one, the game that we went to, and he was like, hey, and I was like, it was raining, whatever. First game of the series. We got a 4-game series. We'll talk again on Tuesday, is what I told him. I don't even want to see that dude now, but yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. The blessing is we played so well ahead of time that we created a nice little cushion. And but they'll be back 4th of July weekend. The stakes will be a little bit higher then, because we'll be kind of dancing around that trade deadline. So we'll have to see. But ultimately, in my opinion, I feel like we were kind of punching above our weight class for a while, and a lot of guys that we didn't know what we would get out of them were performing exceptionally well, and they've kind of come back down to reality a little bit. Like you said, humbling situation, puts things in perspective, and now we really got to lock in. But when we look at the numbers, guys like Green didn't have a good week. Green was one of the guys that had some opportunities with runners on and wasn't able to get the job done. Was it in the series, the game we went to, that he had the bases loaded? I know we had the bases loaded with no outs. Baddoo came up and struck out. I want to say Green struck out, but moral of the story is I think we got blanked in that game, right?
Yeah, I think we went up with bases, yak, no outs, like you said, and I think we went 3 straight consecutive strikeouts.
Was it 3? Oh wow, yeah, like
3,
that.
yeah.
That can't happen.
No, yeah. Again, conditions were cruddy. By that point in the time, the rain had picked up for the second time, and you and I pretty much were under our hoods, whatever we had to cover our heads and our hats, and like pants were wet. It was just not ideal, but not to give them a total free pass on it, but in those conditions at night too, with the lights on, you're trying to find the ball through a heavy enough mist and almost fog-like down there that night too. It was kind of weird.
Yeah. But just some stats to look at in the last 7 days. Riley Green's hitting 227, Torkelson is hitting 217, Cole Keith was hitting 150, Carpenter hitting 200. So that's a lot of that's all of your main guys. So runners in scoring position was definitely the name of the game. I think they went into the series 6th in the league in runners in scoring position, and we've had the 4th most RBIs with runners in scoring position. But we've fallen down to an average of 253 and 10th in the major leagues. Just one series alone dropped us down 4 notches. So we'll continue to monitor that situation. But we'll talk about it a little bit later. We'll talk about just our concern level a little bit later. We got a comment in here. Tim Lyon says, my Cards played great against y'all, but lost it the last 2 games. You got a good team in Detroit. Appreciate you, Tim, for tuning in to us. He's the Cincinnati Bengal affiliate over on the representing Fans First Sports Network.
All
But
right.
yeah. So Monday, because I want to say, Monday night I was doing the NBA show, and Tim was talking to smack a little bit because that was the game that they beat us up real bad. But yeah, we were able to.
Hey, tell him to keep his boy Burrow in line. What's he doing still running around with that housemaid again, apparently?
Wait, who?
I digress. Burrow. Joey B.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Unrelated.
I don't even know about that, but all right. Let's take a quick break and go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Yeah, just briefly to Tim's point. Yeah, Cardinals they're not going to be a team I might want to see. I mean, they are coming in hot still too, and they're now nipping at the Cubs for the NL Central. So Cardinals, are they back? Looks like it, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, and that's without Goldschmidt, and well, I guess we'll have to continue to see what's going on with Arenado. He definitely hit a bomb against us in one of those games. So I think it was probably that game that we lost. But
yeah, he hit one down the left field line, kind of tightrope the pole, but it went like 15 rows up.
Yeah. Comment. He said that housemaid is pretty high. Yeah. I'm gonna leave that right there. I need to do some analytical research. Right. Yeah, I'm going to do some research into that for sports purposes. Let's get to our first break, and then let's talk roster moves. All right, Coach. What we got roster wise? Take it away.
Oh yeah, we've got quite the stretch here recently. At the game that we went to Thursday, Gleiber left on a hit out of the box, resulted in an out, but he didn't really run out. We thought maybe it was a hamstring or something, but ended up being okay after that. More official moves on Thursday, the 19th. On the 19th, Reese Olson was put on the 10-day IL, retroactive to the 18th. Something to do with his finger. I saw recently he was pitching on flat ground. I kind of don't know why that was even made a post. So yeah, he's out for a little bit longer. They recalled Chase Lee, who has been a kind of a nice surprise and unknown dark horse for us in the limited time he's been up. With that, we designated Thomas Nido, who ended up being outrighted to Toledo, was not claimed on waivers. So I was surprised considering how well he had hit in limited time as well. Due to that, because Jake Rogers came back, obviously midweek, and both Wenzel Perez and Parker Meadows on the 20th were also to begin the rehab in Toledo. On the 22nd, the organization agreed to a minor league deal with relief pitcher Dariel Fragio. And I think in the more common news, just a couple days ago to the Friday's game, he didn't make an appearance until a pinch hit late. Obviously, Matt Vierling was reactivated, and the option Sean Gunther to Toledo, who had been taking some hits in his last couple outings, struggling. Other than that, some other general news regarding some of the guys that have been hurt for a while now. Alex Cobb does not seem to be progressing well with that hip injury. He is undergoing more injections this week, which frankly does not bode well for someone that's struggling to recover from an injury. Usually means they're platelet-enriched injections. So that means that they're having trouble, the body's having trouble trying to repair itself. So at this rate, I'd be surprised if we see him by the All-Star break. So that's kind of where my thought is on that. But the better news, Urquidy and Lang both tossed some bullpens this week. And Sawyer Gibson-Long continues his rehab in Toledo. Dare I say, could he be back before the All-Star break in July, potentially sometime later in June? That's to be determined yet. But in terms of injuries and roster changes, that wraps that up.
Yep, and of course we finally got Mr. Veerling back. If you're watching on the audio YouTube side of things, you see a picture of him being, just regular goofy Veerling. But yeah, that should be a good addition for us, as he's going to provide some defensive versatility at third and center field, and just a spark. I think the team definitely could use a little bit of fire, a little bit of spark. He had a couple RBIs in his first game back, which was nice to see. But still trying to get back in a groove. I think he's 1 for 10 right now. I think that one hit accounted for the 2 RBIs that he got. So, yep, we got the return of Veerling. Did Gunther get sent down?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
I think too, we're seeing in the combination too with Jake Rogers coming back, and I know we talked about it offline too. It seemingly looks like this is now Dingler's team, but progressing going forward as the everyday catcher. Now that Hinch made it public that him and Jake are going to catch everybody. Skubal won't have Jake as his single battery mate on his starts, so that tends to lend the prognosis that they're kind of prepping for an eventual departure or replacement of Rogers by using Dingler like that.
Yeah, I was looking at his numbers. I think he's 4th amongst all major league catchers as far as hits, like individual hits. He's not hitting for a ton of power, but pretty impressive, especially considering how good of a defensive catcher he is. I don't think there was ever any doubts about him calling a game and getting runners out, but the ascension of his hitting pretty much is on par with how it's been for him, where he starts a little slow, needs some time to adjust, but pretty much all the way through the system, he's taken that next step after some time. But let's get into the minor league report down on the farm. A decent amount to talk about. The Tigers have purchased a contract of Richard Guash from Cuba, who was pitching in the Mexican League. This guy is able to touch 98 miles per hour on his fastball. He had a 1.93 ERA with 25 strikeouts, and he is reporting to Double-A Erie. I don't think he's made a start as of yet. The Erie team, speaking of Erie, a couple days ago had an 18-run output. So everybody kind of got into the action, but Jake Holton, our first baseman, hit 2 home runs and had 6 RBIs. Ben Malgeri, who's had a rough start to the season, almost hit for the cycle. Triple. It's like he had a triple, a double, and a single. Just wasn't able to hit the home run. So that's good to see. Josue Briseño continues to do well. This guy, keep in mind, Josue Briseño, I feel like I talk about him every week, but he's only 20 years old. And he says with this home run, he's now one of 5 players to have a walk rate of 13%, a K rate under 21, and 7 home runs after being 20 years old or younger. His OPS is 872, and I guess he went on the IL. This was like his return from the IL, which was a short stint, but a trip nonetheless. Also, Dylan Smith was recently moved up to AAA. It appears that the Tigers are making a conscious effort to strengthen the bullpen, and Dylan Smith came into the league as a starter, but is now transitioned to a closer, from what I can see. He said Dylan Smith making a strong AAA debut for Toledo, struck out the side in the 7th. So maybe not a closer, but a back end. Still
a high leverage role.
Yeah, for sure. And Toledo's been on a nice roll as of lately. They recently got to 23-23, which means that every one of our minor league teams, from Lakeland to West Michigan to Toledo to Erie, are all above 500 right now, which is a testament to how strong our farm system has been. Bryce Rainier has been on a nice tear as of lately. He went 3 for 5 the other day, 4 RBIs, hitting 280. I'll be interested to see if he gets moved up to well, no, not Lakeland. He's in Lakeland. See if he gets moved up to low A by the end of this year. Parker Meadows continues to progress. He hit a home run the other day, went 2 for 3, and Hyu Lee as well has been on a nice run as well. And that the addition of Wenceel Perez and Meadows and Vierling and Baду going back down is probably part of the reason why Toledo has played as well as they have as of recently. But we will see. I'm not sure if Parker Meadows has played defense yet. I want to say Jake Rogers has been down there too. So, and he was batting leadoff, which I'm sure it's just so that he can. I'm sure it's so he can maximize the amount of at bats that he could get. But it's the weird.
It's like putting Bartolo Colon at leadoff.
Basically.
Sexy.
Yep. So yeah, a lot of rehab starts, a lot of major league players going through the AAA system. So I think they've reaped the benefits of that. But just good to see that. Just good to see the entire farm system being successful. Good to see our first round pick from last year, Bryce Rainier. He's in. I sent you some video. He's flashing that guy. Because I don't know, we haven't had a shortstop prospect since I can't remember the last time we had a guy in our system. I don't think Wenceel Perez played shortstop, but Eddie Leonard was in the system for a while. But yeah, I think he's the real deal, and I think he's going to stick there. I think Kevin McGonigal plays shortstop, but I think he's going to eventually transition to second base by the time he gets to the major leagues. But Rainier appears to be handling that role pretty well. And Hyu Lee looks pretty good at third base. Obviously, he's played the majority of his career at second and possibly short, but making a good transition over to third base. Let's get to the next break, and then we're going to get into the next topic. All right. You know what? Let's get into around the league. What do we have any news around the league right now?
Yeah, not too much difference from the last show. I think, of course, we talked about it when it happened, and then it happened again the second game. Ronald Acuna made his much anticipated return to action after tearing his other knee up last year. First pitch of the game that he saw, first pitch back, just ripped left center field, nuke shot, got the crowd crazy. And then he went back the next day and hit another home run in his second game back. So needless to say, I think he's in mid-season form already in late May. So albeit he's coming back from injury, he's fresh, and everyone else is 50 days into the season already. So he's got plenty of energy to burn. They're back to about almost 500. And I think what was kind of interesting, and not kind of, it is very interesting. Because I know, Foster handles a lot of the minor league stuff, which he does a fantastic job on. And we know that about this pick, Jack Cogliano of the Royals. But this guy was just promoted to AAA after being drafted, last year, right? With Max Clark. I think they're in the same draft class. He's now at AAA, and he's homered in his first 4 straight AAA games, and none of them have been cheap shot hits. This guy is going to be a problem in the major leagues, and he's just tearing the ball off the cover right now. But in terms of other parent team news, not too much. Mariners holding a slim lead out in the West. Rangers floating around 500. The trio in the West are staying hot, and it's pretty much Detroit and New York right now in the American League pretty much. But you got teams like, Guardians and Twins who are still hanging around. Royals are scuffling a little bit. It's possible. We have 5 days left in this month. The Rockies could go into June without 10 wins. That's a chance. That is a legitimate chance. And I know it's in my notes here. we look at the Tigers, runs scored. They're a plus 79 differential, third in the league, right? Almost 280 scored, just under 200 allowed. Colorado has a negative 171 differential, which is only 28 more runs than we've given up all year. I cannot wrap my head around that. But yeah, in terms of differential, we're only third behind the Yankees and the Cubs.
Yeah. So as you talked about, we are, a top as far as the power ranking. It, maybe you can interchange Yankees, Cubs, Tigers, throw Dodgers in there, but we have hit a little bit of a snag as of late, especially after losing 3 or 4. I would say it's been our first little taste of adversity. I mean, I won't say our first taste of adversity, but our first time really having to question our abilities was in that Guardian series, especially playing at home where we've played so well. What is your current concern level as far as just how, obviously, like I said, the Cleveland's the team to beat, and they handled us pretty good. What is your concern level with that last series, or do you feel like it was just kind of a one-off type situation?
I think a little bit of both. They hadn't had a day off since the previous week, and they were rolling through 7 games in 7 days, and they still don't have a break until I think after this current series that's starting this afternoon against the Giants. But, it just a combination of things. They were coming back from St. Louis. Guardians have been playing well, not that we hadn't, but, I kind of was waiting. It was going to happen no matter what in this marathon of a season, that they were going to end up facing a team that on paper they should beat and win the series. But just based on whatever you want to call it, the luck that we alluded to earlier and some other factors like the weather from Thursday night's game, it just felt like they were going to end up dropping a series. And it was a little, I don't want to say it was terribly concerning. It's not like their pitching was really bad in all 3 games. I think reliever Montero really had to go through 5 2/3 in his outing. I think it was St. Louis. Didn't start though. Someone else was the opener. I think it was Holton, who gave up a run in the first inning. Mm-hmm. I think right now they're kind of dealing with this rotational, like this revolving door between guys that are just getting hurt and going on IL and guys that are coming back healthy, and they're having to, I don't know if you watched the game at all yesterday. They had McKinstry mic'd up for an inning on the field with Dane Dickerson. And, it was only his 3rd game at short. And he was like, hey, I was told this morning I was playing left field. So I didn't know I was playing short until I got to the ballpark.
That's crazy.
So, but we talked about that maybe a couple weeks ago, right around opening day too. Like, there's a process players go through mentally, especially a utility guy. Like, okay, I know I'm playing this position today. I'm going to go through my pregame routine mentally and otherwise to get ready for that job to do. And then you get thrown a curveball. Oh, by the way, you're not even playing in the outfield. You're playing in the infield, and you're playing
short. You're not just playing any position. You're playing the toughest position on the field too. But
yeah, so those kind of things come into it. So I think the pitching, they've had some issues is their bigger concern, because we know their power. Like, okay, Torkelson was hot, Baez was hot at the same time for probably a month. Javi's still kind of hitting a little bit. His power's kind of dropped. He's only had 2 RBIs in the last 2 weeks. Torkelson had that lone home run. Was it Friday night? And they lost 3-1 late to try and give him a spark. Just wasn't enough. He's still providing some power, although his average has been steadily declining over the last 3 or 4 weeks. We knew the power was going to be a question mark, but I think more important to their success, their recipe continuing from last year, is their pitching, both the rotation and the bullpen. They really need to have their pitching, 75-80% of the time to have a legitimate chance at winning, most games they step out in the field. So we've seen some guys finally, like Maeda, they cut some dead weight. Sean Gunther's been knocked around a bit. Tyler Holton went through about a week's stretch or so, 4 or 5 outings where he was fairly inconsistent, giving up runs in almost every outing. Hannafy gave up 3 runs just a few nights ago after he's had a pretty good year. Hopefully that's just a small blip. But then you look at their starters. Flaherty. Montero's been a spot starter. He's had one good start, and then he'll follow up with kind of 2 clunkers, if you will. Of course, he's not pitching any regular days. He's pitching 4 days, 6 days, 5 days. It's pretty erratic. But back to the whip point, though, I think like Flaherty and Olson, they need to work on and Joe, they need to work on their walks and their pitch efficiency in order to get deeper into games. These guys will win if they go 6. If they go 6, that means they've got a quality start. They haven't imploded in an inning yet to be pulled, and they're probably right around the 80, 85 pitch mark. So Hinch may have the opportunity to go another inning with them. And we saw with Skubal yesterday, under 100 pitches in 9 innings for his first complete game, and I'm pretty sure he has never gone into the 9th inning in any start, certainly not this year or last year. So control for the pitching and avoiding that really big, ugly inning, I think are the 2 concerns for me going forward. I think their offense will eventually come around now that Vierling's back and Parker seems to be on the mend here very soon.
Yeah, and that parlays right into what I was going to say. The one thing I think the Tigers have done a good job of hitting in opportune situations, which is something we've struggled with in the past. I think they do a good job of being aggressive base runners, going first to third, and just being aggressive. One thing that jumps out at me is the lack of speed that we've had due to guys like Vierling, Meadows, Perez. These are the fastest players on our team, and it's probably why we are dead last in the league as far as stolen bases per game. We are dead last in that category. So I think that it's yet another way that we can start to manufacture runs is being able to, steal some bases and move guys over and stretch some of those singles into doubles. I think that would be because I really feel like we're just missing a spark. Like we don't have that Chandler Simpson or PCA. We don't have those type of guys. We got guys like Torkelson and Riley that can hit the ball out of the park. Colt Keith on occasion, but we don't have that guy that can, McKinstry kind of plays that role. It's to some extent, he's a guy that can get you a triple and really ignite the crowd. But
he's 3 for 3 on stolen bags this year. But yeah, he doesn't.
But he doesn't.
I don't feel like he's overly quick to be a base swiper. He's just a really good natural athlete and runs base as well in general. But to your point too about stolen bags, dead last, no Parker Meadows. He swiped over 20 last year, so yeah,
swiped over 20 in what 3.5 the season, like
right. And Baez too. Baez can get a couple bags here and there.
Yeah, what kills me, and I continue to bring it up, Gleyber Torres, the worst base runner I've ever seen. Like having a great season.
Torques had some bad issues on the bases this year too, so far. So
Torres had some issues, but they're more mental than like the physical aspect. Yeah, like I honestly feel like Gleyber, and I think that his body type was perfect for New York, where he was just trying to, muscle out home runs at a high clip. But as he gets older, I think he could definitely stand to lose like 10 pounds. Athletically at second base, but also, he gets thrown out at second base, whether it's on a stolen base. It happened yesterday on a stolen base or trying to leg out a single to a double. Because Cora, even though Cora is the third base coach, isn't it Cora?
Right. Yeah.
So it's really on the first. So it's really on the first base coach to wave him around to second base, but we're an aggressive base running team. I think he wants to contribute to that, but he's slow as molasses. And I don't know. It drives me nuts that the second baseman is normally a pretty fleet of foot guy, but
Polanco didn't look very, thin, I should say, but he moved very well for a second baseman.
Absolutely. I mean, he was shorter, and Glaber
Yeah.
is a little bit taller, but so he's just lugging a lot more weight. Let's get to these comments real quick.
Oh
MC
yeah.
Detroit fan, a faithful supporter. Tigers are just Parker Meadows and Reese Olson away from being 100%. Yeah, I want to say that, but every time somebody gets healthy, somebody else goes on the IL. So I just know that there's going to be another injury coming. When Wenzel returns, it will be an added bonus. Wenzel Perez has not had a great rehab. I think that they really, really take their time with him, to be honest.
And
Because
then, and they have. It's not like he's a righty hitter, so they got
he's a
left.
switch hitter, but he's a stronger left-handed hitter.
Yeah.
Parker is playing in AAA, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. He hit a home.
Sir.
He hit a home run the other day. He's looking good. He's getting an extended spring training because he didn't whereas Wenzel played in spring training. Some of these other guys played in spring training. Parker did not touch the field, if I'm not mistaken. I think even Veerling had a couple at bats.
Yeah.
Have Dan Campbell be the third base coach. Yeah.
For it every time. Sending him home.
Essentially, that's what Cora is, though. He's essentially the Dan Campbell of base coaches. He's not holding you up.
We've had some pretty underrated base coaches over the even during our downtime in the last 10 years or so, prior to last year's run. We've had some pretty good base coaches over the years. Santiago himself was a good base stealer and runner himself. Andy Van Slyke, long time first base coach with going back to Leland. I think he stayed for like 2 more managerial changes, and now Cora. So we've been pretty lucky with some good base coaches since the days of like Buddy Bell.
Buddy Bell. Oh my God. Those were some dark days.
Yeah.
Okay. So we kind of talked about, the addition of speed and how that can affect the team. Are there, from the coach's perspective, are there any offensively, more than anything, you already touched on the pitching side of things. Offensively, are there any changes that you would like to see made to give the team, a little bit of a pick-me-up?
I really don't. He's kind of putting these guys in fairly similar spots in the lineups. I don't want to say it's totally predictable, like so-and-so, if it's a lefty, it's always going to be the same 4 combination, 1 through 4, or 4 through 6. It's going to be the same combo. Some of these guys might be batting 3rd and 5th against the same pitcher type. One might be 8th and then 2nd. Not too much variance, but just enough to keep them guessing on how they want to try and approach with their bullpen at, when time comes to do that, and then play that chess match of, going to the bullpen and pinch hitting and trying to be, one up basically on player availability. It's worked for the most part. There's been some games where just, it fell flat on its face, but offensively, I'll say this too, like and I think to your point about speed, which I think to a large degree it plays a role into, they don't really bunt for hits much at all. I can't even remember the last time a guy like maybe Zach or someone would, now that Veerling's back, he's a guy that's done that a few times before. Parker too, to a degree, but he just has too much legitimate line-to-line power to lay a bunt down unless, he sees something. But, they're, like you said, station to station, that's how they're generating these extra runs. I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago. I was like, if we can just get like an extra run and a half by doing that, having to rely on the long ball so much, which we've enjoyed some early success with the long ball between Baez and Torkelson. Green's coming along. Carey's now got 9 or 10 home runs himself. He's coming along with the power. Getting first to third, stretching some of those extra bases. We've seen them thrown out trying to stretch it. So I'll take that. We're being aggressive. It's the mishaps on the base pass where we give away outs or bad throwing errors that kill us. But offensively, I think these guys, now that Veerling's back, it's just finding a routine, settling in, and making the adjustments and trying not to get too down on yourself now that we're really going to start the dog days of summer here for the next 90 days. So this will be the key stretch for us.
Yep, let's get to these comments, and then we're going to get to the next break. MSU Detroit fan says George Lombard, bench coach, needs some positive attention also. Absolutely. Are we going to talk about Jack Flaherty suddenly becoming the wink link in the starting lineup, starting rotation?
We linked,
Yeah.
leaked it last week.
I think he had a good start since we actually originally brought it up, but
Yeah. It was a
yeah.
game we went to. That was his game. 3 hits.
Oh, yeah, that was yeah.
But he had 2 very sketchy innings where he had like 6, 7 runners on base between those 2 innings.
Yeah, and of course, despite having the elements that they were, I mean, we saw him literally ditch the rosin bag. Like me personally, I've never seen that happen before.
Same.
It's like, wow, this is just not fun for anybody. MSU Detroit fan, he's not Kenta Maeda bad, but definitely not the season we expected from him, especially compared to last year. I mean, Coach, you were very, critical of the fact that, like, is it a flash in the pan? Was that kind of a fluky type situation? It's possible, but it's not to a level of concern yet, in my opinion.
Yeah. Thursday was a good game for him. It was a quality start. It's a good sign. But yeah, last week he went through 4 or 5 games in a row where he was absolute dog water and gave up a plethora of home runs in that stretch. I think it was like 10 in 5 games, including what he had 4 solos in the start last weekend. It wasn't looking good, but
yeah, he had a good start against Toronto. I saw the velocity get back up there, so I was encouraged by that. But I think in due time, it won't be as much of an issue, just because we have the depth that we have. We have Kiter Montero, who's like in my opinion, like the junkyard dog. He's just the guy that comes in and just does whatever needs to be done, whether it's a spot start or him being a part of the opener type situation. He just comes in and gets the job done. Not great, never going to be top of the rotation, but he's solid. He's available. He's available.
Yes.
He's
what's an important. Inning eater. Yeah.
He says Flaherty was a weak link in St. Louis, hence why we got rid of him.
Well, he spent a lot of his time in St. Louis,
Baltimore, right?
Right?
Yeah. St. Louis. Yes, St. Louis is where he spent most of his time, right?
Yeah, I think they took him originally, and then we got him after I don't know how many years, but yeah.
He said trade Flaherty back to St. Louis for Nolan Arenado. Well, I don't see why they make that move, but maybe we can sweeten the deal with.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because we talked about this trade last week, and we're like, I don't know.
He
teams
said no.
Could be in the World Series. No thanks.
Yeah, Tim Lyon, who's a Cardinals fan, his response to that is no thanks. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really. Yeah, it doesn't make sense on many different angles, but maybe if St. Louis starts crashing and we can throw in a nice prospect, maybe they'll consider it. Let's get to a break. That was a fun comment section, though. All right. He said we drafted Jack in 2014. Okay, so the Cardinals drafted Jack Flaherty. So they go. Yep. Their roots are deep. But let's get to the upcoming schedule. Do you have the probable starters?
I sure do. Starting off this afternoon's day game against the Giants of San Francisco and the return possibly for the last time, Justin Verlander. Matchup today is Kiter Montero. I don't know if he's starting versus an opener. Last time they used an opener, I think, with Tyler Holton, and then he came in for the next almost 6 innings. He'll be going against Birdsong, who's actually having a pretty good year right now for San Francisco. Tuesday night will be Jack Flaherty against Webb, and the matinee on Wednesday will be Job against Rope. We get an off day finally Thursday, travel day, as we head to Kansas City for a 3-game set where it'll be Friday night, Casey Mize against another former Cardinal, Michael Wacha, the never-aging Michael Wacha. Saturday will be Skubal against Bubik. That should be a good matchup there. And then Sunday, tentatively, is Montero against another former Tiger in Lorenzen before they continue their road trip in Chicago for the White Sox on the south side.
Yep, and MSU Detroit fan beat me to it. Verlander is currently on the IL, and so we won't get a chance to see him.
Oh, I just mean physically in person.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah, like I feel like every time he comes back, there's always a little, rah rah, one more year, come back.
we got to see him last year. He pitched against us on Mother's Day.
Yep.
With the Astros.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so looking a little bit further after this Giants series, we go on the road to face the Royals, and then we remain on the road against the White Sox. So we don't get back into town until the Cubs in early June. Maybe we'll get a chance to see Mr. Maeda.
Oh my gosh.
No.
Who we will see probably though, very good. I mean, Matt Boyd has been pretty good for them, which, wow, what a steal. Minor league signing too. He wasn't even guaranteed invite to spring training for them. That's crazy after what he did to us in 2 games in the ALCS last year.
Yeah. Hey, career hanging on by a thread, but nonetheless, he's still around.
God, maybe if we'd signed him over frickin', I don't know, Alex Cobb.
Oh, man.
Cobb's making $12 million free dollars this year, and I'm pretty sure Matt Boyd's earning somewhere under 4 or 5.
Yeah, that's going to continue to be a head scratcher, but we'll see. We'll see how it ages down the stretch. Of course, arms are going to go down with injuries, so you can never have enough guys. And the fact that he spent so much money with them, hey, that ain't my business. He's printing money over there at Little Caesars, so I can't really sweat it too much. But all I can say about Skubal, blank check, just pay that man. So yeah, that is the upcoming schedule. Let's see what MSU Detroit fan. Olsen should be back hopefully in the 3rd game against the Royals. That'd be great. And luckily we won't have to face Mr. Caglione, who will certainly, because I want to say they have a hole over at first base. Obviously, they don't want to rush him too much. He's only 22 years old. But you got to think I know if there was a Tiger in the system that was rising like that, and it was at such a at need position, I know the fan base would be in a frenzy about getting him up there, especially if I was in 3rd place, because the Royals, I mean, where are they at in the division right now? They're chasing right now.
Yeah, they're 3rd, but
yes,
they're only a game behind. No, they're 4th. They're only a game behind both Cleveland and Minnesota, so they're right in the thick of it.
Yeah. So, all right, because you said what, 4 home runs in a row, or what did you say?
Yeah, he homered in his first 4 consecutive AAA games after he got promoted.
Yeah, that's insane. At the AAA level, like, come on.
Yeah.
I expect to see him by what, July?
It could be. Very well could be. I mean,
because I want to say, where did he start? AA or single?
Maybe high A. I'm not entirely sure. AA at the highest, obviously, but let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start talking about it now a little bit as we get closer to it. Like we said, next 90 days, but really the next 60 days for the trade deadline. Right now, if you were to say, hey, we get one trade successfully, player name doesn't really matter. It's what you need to fill, what you need to fill a need of. Are you going with an arm or are you going with a bat? And if so, which hand or which side hitting are you getting?
See, recency bias. If we don't have this series against the Guardians, it's a much easier decision to say arm, backhand bullpen, probably a righty. But I'm gonna say a starter. I'm gonna say a starter, and we don't have any other lefties besides Skubal. So, yeah, if there's a left-handed pitcher out there starting wise that can strengthen our rotation, I would love to see it. And the reason why I don't say bat right now is because essentially we're still going to get Meadows, Vierling, Perez. We got options hitting wise. You know, we don't know exactly what they're going to bring. Like Meadows could very well struggle. I don't know. Although he looks good right now at the rehabilitation level. Perez was actually a very clutch and pivotal part of our team last year. So I feel like those guys, for us to already be 5 games up or 4 games up in AL, in the American League Central, I feel like those guys are essentially deadline purchases in itself, just by way of they weren't a part of the success we've already had, so they're only going to be additional pieces there. So
Right.
yeah, I think that starting pitching wise, I think that we can get a little bit stronger, just with the sense that these guys that are injured right now, like Lang and Madden and I mean Olson, I'm not really
SGL,
who we didn't talk about him, but we might see him soon. Because he's made his way through Lakeland, and I think he's now at the AAA level, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, he's been throwing. Hinch said he's continued rehab. I think we there's a chance we could see him back for the end of June.
Yeah, I mean he's pitching. It's not like he's still doing bullpen sessions or live batting practice, or he's pitching against professionals at this point. So that's going to be what I'm keeping my eye on, as right now, because we do have arms. We definitely have arms. We just got a lot of guys that, Alex Cobb in the fold at some point, but you can't really bank on that. So,
right.
So yeah, that's what I'm more concerned about than the bats. We'll see how this Giant series goes. Obviously, Webb, I want to say he was an all-star last year, so they got some good pitching. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Do you have any opinions?
They've done a good job restocking the minors and whatnot, kind of fill in depth, like you mentioned, as a contribution as to why these, their minor league teams have been doing so well, in addition to the key pieces that they've obviously drafted. I just think at the end of it, it is a higher probability of a pitcher turning things around and righting that ship than, because batters can go through slumps all the time. I feel like the volatility for hitting is pretty fluid compared to pitching, because pitching, you could have one absolutely horrendous stinker,
right,
like just absolutely take a nuke dookie, and then the next 3 starts you come out and you throw 3 consecutive quality starts, you might go 2-0 with a no decision. And all of a sudden people are looking at that game like, all right, well, that was just a blip on the radar. A blip on the radar for a batter could be 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And now
painful.
That's games. Yeah. In a key spot in the lineup, that's hard to overcome, especially, 3, 4, 5 hitters. I would say right now, because of that, I got to figure with the regression with Baez and Torkelson almost inevitable, just based on law of averages, I would more be in line for a power right-handed hitting bat. And that doesn't really mean where position-wise I think we know would be if we had our choice, but we're talking generality here.
Yeah, I mean, position-wise, ideally probably third, on the corner somewhere.
Yep.
Especially since Baez and Torque both play third. And, I mean, Baez plays center, but I think Vierling has kind of took over. I think he's going to take over that spot more so.
They'll probably flip-flop. If one's not playing center, the other will. And if they're not playing center, they're probably playing third, almost guaranteed for the most part.
Yeah. So we will see. We will see. We still are holding it down at the top of the AL Central. We got a couple after this Giant series. We got 2 series in a row against AL Central opponents. I mean, if you want to call White Sox the White Sox, in a AL Central opponent. But nonetheless, those are games that have to be played. They're played on the field, not on paper. But yeah, I want to see how we look against the Royals. The Royals are play us pretty tough. They play Scooble extremely tough, from what I can recall. So we will see. Everybody enjoy the rest of their Memorial Day weekend. We will be back next week with another recap of Detroit Tigers baseball. Please subscribe to Bleacher Speakers on YouTube and Corner to Copa on all audio aggregators. See this last comment. I appreciate you, Tim. We'll holla at y'all next week.
Yes, sir.